A brilliant but eccentric scientist begins to transform into a giant man fly after one of his experiments goes horribly wrong. The Fly is up next on Inside Movies. Hey guys, welcome to Inside Movies with George Michail. I'm your host. I'm a comic book maker, and I am joined by the editor-in-chief of Merck Publishing, Murphy, novelist Andrew Buckley, and writer-illustrator GMB Chomichuk. Thanks to everyone for being on the show. Let's get into it. Let's talk about The Fly. What do we like about it? What's the good?
Jeff Goldblum was a fly. He got down the little mannerisms, like incredible, like the way that he like walked up and down the ceiling, like he looked like a fly.
Yeah, I was debating with myself, like how high of a grade can I give a movie that is just like a silly monster movie of like this guy kind of devolving into this animalistic thing. And because it's a simple story, but it is done so well, and the creature effects are so incredible.
It's such a great film because it's so many different, it's multifaceted like a fly's eye. It's so many different things at the same time. You know, it's a romantic tragedy, it's a sci-fi, it's body horror, it's like deep drama. There is so many things to like in this movie. And I'm always a sucker for complete practical effects. Everything in this movie is practical, all shot with puppets, in camera, no CG, no visual effects. Oh, chef's kiss.
Well, that scene of her birthing like a sack. Oh, that was so gross. I was like, I'm gonna have nightmares. Like, I'm already like I don't want kids. Like, the whole birth process sounds fucking terrifying to me. I'm never going to forget that.
I love horror. I am not a fan of gross horror. It does not do it for me in the slightest. But in the good stuff, Jeff Goldblum was great. Geena Davis was great, and I kind of appreciated that the story got like right into it. Like it starts with them at the party and then going to his place, which I have some comments about in the bad. But like that whole, it jumped right into it. That's great. I can appreciate that. And that's the end of my good list. So I'll just shut up.
That's it. No. It was like super good, man. Like the pacing in this movie just like goes. And yeah, I was in for it. I'm not super into like gross out like horror. Like when he's like pulling out his fingernails, I almost barfed. Oh, it's so nasty. And then his ear falls off. But I like all the practical stuff because when I don't know, CGI, you can just get a vibe that it's not really happening. But with the practical like makeup stuff, it feels real to me. It feels extra dirty and gross, and I loved it.
So you know how in the 80s and early 90s there was this like glut of werewolf movies where there's just all these transformations. The Fly is great because it takes that transformation scene from a werewolf movie in the 80s and it makes that transformation last the entire film, just in these incremental little pieces as you move across. Apparently there were 7 complete phases of The Fly. They designed backwards to forwards. So they figured out what he was going to look like at the end, and then they went back and did the visual effects to get him there. And I just think that part is so interesting. And there's so much like scientific curiosity for Brundle while he is transforming. I also was really fascinated by that. I was very young when I saw it, too young, I'm sure. But rewatching it, that was my favorite part. He's like, oh, wow, I wonder what's going to happen next. I just thought that was so great.
I'll give credit to the creature effects because they did do it differently. They didn't want to duplicate what like American Werewolf in London did. And I forget what the special effects guy's name was on this, but he didn't want that ballooning effect that they used to do like the elongated limbs and crap that they did in American Werewolf. So I like that they did kind of push the envelope and change things up a little bit because he just didn't want another one of those movies, which he successfully did because, I mean, George, you're right. Practical effects, they hit different. They're freaking gross in this movie, though. They're so gross.
That scene where he's like on the pole running and then running on the ceiling and then flipping around and then running on the ceiling. You would too. You would do that too as soon as you had superpowers. His like arc of you need to leave before I hurt you was such a, I mean, sad but true. I spent a long time working in group homes. This like narrative of like a person sometimes knows the thing that's in them and the thing that's coming and is like trying to warn people. It is not an excuse for the behavior, but it is like a warning for the behavior that's coming. I thought that was handled so well in the movie. Like Brundle is, he's a victim in the course of this transformation. And as the fly features start to take hold, he's aware of them and he's paying attention and he's like, uh-oh, like you got to get out of here before it gets really bad. I thought that was like not in most horror movies. You don't really care. You're just waiting for the next kill. In this case, you just don't want anyone to get killed. Except that one guy who gets melted. But he didn't really deserve it either.
And something else that's horrifying is GMB Chomichuk's work. Greg, can you tell us about one of your latest projects?
Well, if you want something that pushes the boundaries of genre a little bit and is a little bit off-putting, a little bit into the dark corners of a creepy old library, check out The Eye Collector, available in all bookstores and comic stores and from Heavy Metal.
Awesome. And I have included a link in the description of this video to The Eye Collector, so definitely go and check that out. Let's get into the bad. What did we not like about The Fly?
Oof. So Jeff Goldblum starts off creepy.
100%.
He doesn't turn into a monster. He is creepy. At the very beginning of the movie.
You mean you wouldn't go back to his apartment to see the thing that's going to change the world? Mine's going to change the world.
No.
Everyone's lying to you. Come with me to my apartment. Oh my God.
Yeah, that was a stretch. It was an odd choice. Oh, they gave her some bad choices.
They did, and she went for it every single time. I started making notes as to all the red flags. Like, he's a super weird even at the party. Like, he's just creepy and strange. And then he's like, come home with me. They drive to a warehouse district. And she's still like, oh, okay. And then when she's inside, within the first 30 seconds, he's like, well, I can't let you leave now. I'd have to kill you. I'm like, oh my God. And then I had to start making notes as to all the red flags. But they continued.
Because that was all within like 5 minutes.
All within 5 minutes.
Well, and then on the other hand, so after like he's got the super strength, he tries to push her into and like make her go through it.
Oh,
and she doesn't want to, and then he starts, so she gets mad and storms off and goes to a bar. And I was almost proud for a minute when he said, oh, $100, and if I win, I could take her home. And the girl at the bar says, like, what? I'm not a hooker. And I was like, okay, yeah, good job. And then he breaks the guy's arm, and then she goes with him. What?
And he looks so funky and gross by that point, too.
Yes, his face is all, ugh. Like, that made no sense.
But that was awesome when he broke that guy's arm, though. That was like, oh my God, I can't believe he did that.
I couldn't watch it. I just couldn't watch it.
See, I want to point out, okay, all the things that you guys said about like the incredulity of the pace of like the bad choices. Isn't that what a horror movie is supposed to be, though? Like, you're supposed to be like, no, don't go up the stairs. No, don't separate. No, don't do that. Like, that is, I think, playing to the modern audience at that time, right? Like, those were the tropes of like, I wouldn't go to the creepy old house on top of the hill. She goes to the equivalent in a city space, right?
Yeah, but they happen again and again and again. It's not like it's just,
She's a reporter, damn it. Lois would go there.
I don't know that she would. I think Lois Lane is more smarts than that. But I also had trouble with their relationship. Their attraction didn't make sense either, mostly for those reasons. I conclude in the end that Geena Davis was a bit of a freak, and that's kind of why she was into, creepy tall dudes in parties that she randomly goes home with. It was weird.
Well, and when stuff comes out of his mouth onto like the donuts that he's eating, and then he like lets him hug her, I was like, like, get off. I just wanted to get off of her.
No, his fucking ear fell off. His ear fell off, and then she hugged him on that side of him. where his ear would just fall. I was so grossed out by the whole thing.
Cronenberg played you like marionettes in those scenes, you guys. Like marionettes, dance puppets, dance. That's going on. Those aren't bad parts. Those are good. That's good filmmaking. You're supposed to feel wretched in those moments. And so when you're like, oh no, that's what they're trying to do. The parts that were bad, quote unquote bad, was that, like you say, there is no reason for her to be as intrigued with him at the beginning. But once she meets him and goes back there and sees that device, I mean, you would go back to see the teleportation thing again. You would not stay away.
I think I would stay away after I saw the monkey get turned inside out.
Yeah.
I don't think that I would immediately then want to have sex with him that night in the same apartment. Which
no, that was a theme. It was monkey business, Murphy. That was just monkey business.
Monkey business. Come
Also,
on,
where
dude.
did all the baboons come from? Does he just have a steady stream of baboons in the back room that he just keeps bringing out and putting in these machines to turn inside out?
Should I point out that there was one more baboon scene that got cut because test audiences could not handle it?
What was that? What happened?
There's a baboon and a cat that get put in.
Oh.
He combines a baboon and a cat together.
I heard about that.
And they turn into this like horrible monstrosity that attacks him, but then he beats to a pulp with like a lead pipe. I have it on my
Oh,
DVD.
jeez.
It's really awful and really terrifying. And if that had been in there, I think it would have done, it completely erased any pathos we would have had for Brundlefly and turned him completely into a monster. By removing it, it let us still be like, oh, well, he was a scientist. He went too far. Oh, no, now he's trapped on the rail of his own horrors. That's how I feel about it.
You know, the scariest behind the scenes fact from this movie was that Cronenberg was terrified of the baboons because apparently you can't train a baboon. So they're just naturally fairly vicious. So they have to keep the one that was in it most of the time. They have to keep it really chill and calm all the time. And it only really reacted to Goldblum. And they think because he was such a tall, muscular, imposing guy that he kind of became the alpha over the baboon. But Cronenberg was terrified of the thing the entire time. And everybody on set was really worried about this thing just freaking out because it would get angry a lot of the time and there wasn't much they could do about it.
Jeff Goldblum is such an odd character, like in life, that I don't even question. Oh, the baboon on set just loved him. Yeah, that was now. I bet the baboon like jumping into his arms was just something that the baboon did. I don't even for a second question the honesty of that because Jeff Goldblum is just so odd.
Spielberg said the same thing about Jeff Goldblum and the T-Rex on the set of Jurassic Park, that for, you know, everyone was really afraid of the T-Rex, but Goldblum just like could calm it and
it took to him.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, the biggest problem with this movie is the ex-boyfriend, the publisher guy with the beard. He's just such a slime bag, and which is fine. He can be a slime bag. But what I didn't like about it was that they put him in a position where he's kind of the hero, and you're like, go and reach for that gun. You can get that gun. You got to save Geena Davis. And I'm just like, this guy's a dirtbag. It should be Geena Davis trying to get that gun and trying to save herself. And I didn't like having to be in the position to root for such a dirtbag.
Well, he won't give her back her key, which is super weird. And then, but like she calls him tons of names, but then immediately goes to him, you know, when she has a problem. It's just that whole relationship just did not make sense at all.
Right, but now looking at it, that does actually make more sense as to why she's attracted to Jeff Goldblum, who's also super weird and creepy. Maybe she just has a type.
See, and that's what I think is great about the film in general, is that unlike most horror films, you can't talk about it and have too many revelations after the fact. But when we look at the relationship that is the prequel relationship to Jeff Goldblum, he's controlling, he's mean, he's belittling, he's all the things that Jeff Goldblum is. It's clearly a pattern of hers to be involved with men like this, which is not what we're used to seeing in a hero on film in general, which is what I think makes it captive.
Do you think that is a choice that they actively made? Like when they were making this, the creators?
If not for, I would not give it the benefit of the doubt, Murphy. I would give that to the editor normally, if not for Cronenberg's library of peculiar characters in all of his films.
So the ending I thought was actually like really good. It was terrifying, the thought of them all being smushed together as one new monster. But for Brundlefly, I cannot say it. Brundlefly to then get merged with the teleporter.
That was cool.
That was too much.
Too much.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, come on. And then it just ends really abruptly.
I was good with it ending quickly. And I think we should wrap this up. Let's give the skinny. What's our grades for The Fly?
I'm going to give it 2 out of 3 teleporting machines. I probably will never watch it again. That was enough.
I will give this movie, The Fly, 4 out of 5 baboons leaping into the arms of Jeff Goldblum.
Despite this being produced by Mel Brooks, which should have made me like it, but it doesn't, I had to give it 1 inside out baboon out of 5 because I will also never watch this movie again, and it's just too gross.
So really, that's an inverse rating.
An inverse rating. I didn't find this movie too gross. I found it the perfect amount of gross, and for me, it's a B+. This is like, a B movie done right with a charismatic actor playing the doomed monster with amazing practical effects that really hold up. And it's got good pacing, man. So like for me, I was captivated, and yeah, I probably won't go back to it and watch it again anytime soon, but I just think it was a B movie done as good as you can make a B movie. So I was really happy with it. So that's going to do it for Inside Movies. I've been George Michail, joined by Murphy, Andrew Buckley, and GMB Chomichuk. The Eye Collector. Click the link in the description of this video and go check out Greg's work. Until next time, peace.